at the time when US should be figuring out how to exit the West Asia situation, US is talking about exiting NATO. US thinks that if NATO members did not come to help them, they can look for help themselves. And this is why NATO is yet again in news, where Donald Trump has clearly said he has been thinking about it and this time he is ready to do it. That is, leave NATO dry-handed. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh, and in today's session we are going to understand not just about NATO but also how over the years NATO has come together as an organization to not just work for the ambitions of US but also of the member nations, how it has protected each of its own, but in past 1 year we have seen the foundation shaking quite a lot. Let us begin with understanding that what exactly is NATO. So when we are talking about NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, established back in 1949. Now, the whole idea of establishing this organization was to counter the influence of back then Soviet Union which was present, and also ensure that Western security was maintained. So when we are talking about Western security, please do not assume only merely as US. We are also talking about Western Europe initially. Now, when Soviet Union broke down, gradually with times it was not just Western Europe powers but also Eastern European nations started to join it. We will be talking more about it. This treaty was finalized in 1949 as I mentioned, and it was formed via Washington Treaty during the Cold War. Now, the two key important features of this very treaty is first Article 5. This is one of the most fundamental principles of this treaty, which talks about collective defense. That means if we are going to attack a country, member country of NATO, that means that attack would be considered attack on all the countries and they would be coming together to defend. And another core principle lies in Article 4, which will give us an insight to what is happening, that is consultation during threats. So all in all, broadly seen, it is more a military alliance, but because of principles such as Article 4, we can understand it as a political alliance as well. If we look at Article 5, it has been used multiple times, but since the attack of 9/11 on the Twin Towers, only once Article 5 has been invoked. Now, when we are talking about NATO itself, we should need to also look into the expansion of NATO. This will also give you an idea how over the years gradually, when you see, the members have increased. At present, we do get to see 32 members. The most recent member who joined in 2024 happens to be Sweden. Before that, it was Finland. And if you remember, in 2022, it was the membership of Ukraine. Ukraine was interested to join NATO, which led to the Russia-Ukraine war, which is going on till date. Now, let us move to it. When we are talking about NATO's Article 5, what were the times when we have seen NATO coming together? For example, if we talk about Afghanistan, the trigger was the 9/11 attack and Article 5 was invoked, where NATO led ISAF mission, which was one of the largest operations done, that was carried out. And this was a 20-year operation, as you can clearly see. There have been other operations as well, be it the Balkans operation in the Eastern European nation in 1995, Operation Deliberate Force Kosovo, we saw it in 1999, where there was a humanitarian intervention and the UN mandate was also not present when NATO did this. Now, this is not all. We also have seen NATO come into operationalizing its mandate in Libya also during the fall of Gaddafi regime in 2011, and other missions such as addressing the anti-piracy. I am talking about Gulf of Aden and Bab el-Mandeb Strait. So, one of the most important choke points again from the context of trade, energy, oil movement is this region, and to address the piracy in this region, NATO has intervened. Iraq training missions carried out by collectively NATO, and then Baltic air policing. So there are a lot of examples where we actually have seen Article 5 come into the picture, and NATO has actually delivered in terms of a collective defense, military alliance and political alliance. Also, when we see the trend, we get to see that NATO has shifted just from defending their own territory. So they are not anymore looking towards territorial defense only, they are also looking at global security role. When you look at the Libya operation, when you look at international security assistance force operation in Afghanistan, all of this is about NATO being a player for the global security, that we are there to protect the globe, we will ensure this. So NATO has also moved towards this side. Now we will be moving to understand that what happened, that NATO was called and all of a sudden Donald Trump's feel that I need to leave this organization. So this all started with the Iran war that is unfolding. US, Israel, Iran engulfed in a very drastic situation which has been unfolding for last 4 weeks, and as of now it seems worsening. But from past 1 month, one thing that has been clear from Iran's end, that we will use our resources to best of our might to create consequences that will make other nations and also US think about it. And one of those things here is Strait of Hormuz. Iran has blocked Strait of Hormuz. 20% of global oil supply comes from here, that is disrupted. LNG supply, that is disrupted. Vessels trying to cross without Iran's permission have been shot down, and also Iran is ready to charge this. Now US thought we have started this, so if we free the Strait of Hormuz, the problem is sorted and we can carry on. This is when US called the NATO members for intervention. So it was idea of the US, because the crude oil prices are increasing and energy crisis is unfolding, especially in Europe and US, let us try to address this collectively. How? The idea was pitched by Donald Trump that we need to escort the vessels. We need to put navy ships there so that the vessels can be escorted through the Strait of Hormuz. But the NATO members clearly said, we are not part of this war. You have not been attacked, you are the one who has attacked. This is a war that you have created yourself and we are not going to intervene. Especially key members such as United Kingdom, France, Spain, they clearly, outrightly said no. And this is where Donald Trump felt that NATO is worthless. NATO is not doing the job it is meant for US. And this statement is passed, and this statement also comes from the fact that how Donald Trump think that we are the ones protecting the NATO members. If NATO members are directed some way, they should follow it. So in that context, we will also talk. Now you have an idea that what exactly triggered the situation which we are seeing in form of NATO crisis. Now let us try to understand that why exactly Trump is calling NATO a paper tiger. This will also give you an insight into the fact that why Trump is presuming that he has this much of power. This comes straight away from the fact that when we are talking about the burden sharing of NATO, US carries the heavyweight. US is responsible for the financial contribution of 70%. And US has, especially under the presidency of President Donald Trump, they have not been happy about the members who are not even contributing 2% GDP defense target. So basic target is whatever is your GDP, 2% you have to contribute to the defense of NATO. Financially you have to contribute there. Other than that, there has been lack of strategic reciprocity. That means US wanted their allies to support them just like they have supported. For example, US supported their allies in Western Europe during the Ukraine crisis. But allies this time, they said, US has started this war, we don't want to interfere, the crisis can worsen, especially for the countries. UK Prime Minister has clearly gone ahead and said that this is not our war, we will do what is important to protect our country. And Another important thing that we need to remember for the fact that why NATO is being called a paper tiger, especially by Donald Trump, is the fact that he is failing to understand that what NATO members are doing is diverting the threat. Because US and Iran, the strategic threat is present, they are constantly standing against each other, and that has been happening for a long time. But if Europe enters this, then they would have to let go the domestic stability that is present, they have to let go the scope of mediation that is possible, and all of this will mount up to domestic instability and furthermore escalation as soon as Europe also enters the war. Now there are more factors which have been developing recently, such as the fact that Europe has thought, especially since Donald Trump has been placed in the presidency of US, that we have to have some autonomy. Strategic autonomy is important for us, and that is why Europe is pushing for independent defense capability, and they want to reduce their dependence on US. So when we are talking about India, EU, FTA, this is also a very good example where Europe is trying to come up with their own strategic autonomy. And the reason Europe is doing this is a consequence of Trump doctrine, where Trump is solely concentrated towards own interests. The alliances are not anymore based on like-mindedness or the rights or the ideologies, they are transactional. You do this, then only this will happen. They are more about America being first, and he has already discarded NATO as something costly and ineffective. As much as that US was ready to take up Greenland, which is territory of a NATO member Denmark. So in this situation, Trump has facilitated the ineffectiveness or the reluctance of other allies that we are seeing. And this can also be seen as a clear political signaling that President Donald Trump wants to make the Europe feel useless, worthless. He wants to encourage the adversaries, especially for Europe. Russia is a greater adversary for Europe than for US as of now. And this will lead to a lot of consequences. If NATO is out of the picture, especially if US is out of NATO, NATO is out of the global security image picture, absolutely. But that will have a lot of consequences. Now that is going to be my question to you. What do you think will be the consequences if NATO goes out of the picture of global landscape? Can you tell me in the comment section? Let me know. Also at this note, I will be leaving you here with a prelims practice question. Let me know the answer to this in the comment section. And when we are talking about situations like this, the way forward is not to ensure the dismantling of such huge alliances, but to ensure that there is better burden sharing. And this is the time that India would also find scope in terms of rising as regional power and global power. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section. That was all from my side. Thank you so much.